it could happen to you. So what do you do?
Killers usually choose their victims at random. They look for easy targets. So the harder you are to see or to hit, the safer you are. When an attack starts, if you can find a way out of the location, do so.
Officials say by thinking clearly, you can improve your chances of making it out, as seen in this scenario.
What are we going to do? Look at me. I can get us out. Stay behind me. Stay here.
Use cover, something that will stop a bullet, and concealment, something that at least keeps you out of sight.
And these are just some of the pointers that were taught at this active shooter training for city employees.
It's better to be prepared that maybe your natural tendency would be to freeze, and so you need to be thinking about it so that that isn't how you respond.
It gave me the insights of things I didn't think about.
Almost anything can be turned into an improvised weapon. Look for something that can disrupt the shooter's ability to see, breathe, or control their weapon.
Other things to remember include lock and barricade doors, turn off lights and move away from any windows, and silence your cell phone.
Unfortunately, these things are happening. It's just, we have to be kind of prepared.
We may not always be able to prevent a shooting, but if you have the tools, it could save your life. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
The entire video is available on YouTube. Just search Surviving an Active Shooter. Well, it's a way for residents in the Valley to get to know their small restaurants and eateries, as well as one of their city leaders. Anna Marcos drops in for one of Councilman Paul Krikorian's Lunch with Paul events.
It may look like a vacation in Cancun, but this Mexican fiesta is right in the hood, as Councilmember Paul Krikorian holds his monthly Lunch with Paul get-together. This one at the Cactus Taqueria in Valley Village. The message, get to know your neighbors and your councilman and help support small business in the Valley.
I feel like, oh, what a cute place. I want to go there sometime, and never quite have the hook to do it. So this gives people the hook, and they say, oh, okay, I meant to try that place, now I'm going to go do it, and hopefully they'll keep coming back.
Krikorian has been doing these lunches for about a year now, which means he's helped about a dozen of these businesses get their name out in the community.
These lovely people with their meats are the one-story home. This is going to be in the backyard of.
But the neighbors also come to get the councilman's ear and find solutions to problems in their neighborhood. Some residents complain about homelessness.
I have my issues with the homeless on the freeway on-ramps, on the off-ramps, living on park benches, in front of Gelson's, in front of Trader Joe's, and panhandling.
Others are up in arms over a proposed development in their community.
All our houses are sweet little, one-story bungalow, California bungalows. This subdivision looks like a prison.
Krikorian talks to all. He promises to walk through the neighborhood to see what can be done about zoning and new development. Some of his constituents applaud a new stop sign in the area, and one woman concerned about crime has now teamed up with police.
We're able to put her together with her senior lead officer, and hopefully they're going to be creating a neighborhood watch in that area.
Sometimes Krikorian has to skip the Mexican fiesta. With all the citizens wanting his attention, there's often just no time for lunch. Today is one of those days, which just gave him another reason to come visit this small establishment again. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Well, Councilmember Krikorian says he's looking at visiting other small establishments besides restaurants because other small merchants need the love and the business too. Well, you'll soon be seeing more parks and open space in LA. 2 local citizens received special honors from the city for their bravery and initiative, and an annual tradition showcases the unique flavor of a local neighborhood. All these stories in City Beat. There will soon be more parks in LA after the City Council approved a new ordinance updating the city's old development fees program for the first time in more than 3 decades. The changes will boost funding for parks and open space in Los Angeles by charging fees to apartment developers, which were generally excluded from the fees. The new rules will also let the city spend the funds in a wider area than previously allowed. LAPD officer Donald Thompson, who was awarded the Medal of Valor last May by President Barack Obama, was honored in City Hall by council members Mitchell Englander, Paul Koretz, and Nuri Martinez. Thompson, who has been with the department for almost 3 decades, rescued a driver from a burning car in December of 2013 and saved the man's life. He says that while he appreciates the accolades, he just did what had to be done.
Down inside, I don't really feel as if I'm a hero. I did something to help someone in a time of need.
This is what police officers and firefighters, our first responders, are all about. The fact that they put their lives on the front line to protect complete strangers.
Another hero was recognized by the city. Clean Streets hero Rosie Brown was honored recently by the Board of Public Works for her hard work in cleaning up her neighborhood.
If you have to be involved, you have to have an actual, connection with the city. You have a connection with your neighbors. You have to be able to go out there, greet them, say, hey, let's keep our neighborhood clean.
The Clean Streets program was started by Mayor Eric Garcetti to encourage folks to take action to clean up their neighborhood streets and keep them clean. City officials say community leaders like Rosie are an inspiration to all.
We love seeing volunteers like Rosie that really are the heartbeat of their community.
The 10th annual Frogtown Art Walk was held recently in Elysian Valley along the LA River, featuring dozens of special exhibits from local artists and craft makers. It also offered a variety of food selections from local eateries and musical performances. City Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell said he's proud to sponsor the event.
One of the premier events in Northeast Los Angeles, if not the whole city, for art and culture and people from the neighborhood and beyond to just come on a hot August evening and have a good time.
As we inch closer to the presidential election, the drive is on to lure more Latinos to the polls. Their numbers are huge in California, but for some reason, many of them don't vote. The mayor is teaming with a Hollywood veteran to help change things. Gil Reyes reports.
Heading into November's elections, actor-director Edward James Olmos launches a Spanish-language, nonpartisan Get Out the Vote campaign.
It's a campaign that's called Este Año, Tu Voto es Cosa Seria. And that, to me, is the essence of one of the great commitments that the mayor has for getting registered, and if you are registered, to vote.
The star of Stand and Deliver and Blade Runner is featured in a series of public service announcements airing on Spanish-language TV. Olmos's campaign has the support of Mayor Eric Garcetti, who spoke at this year's Latinos and Society Summit. Since taking office, the mayor has urged non-U.S. citizens to become citizens so they too can cast ballots. People can visit LA City libraries for help.
So inside every library, there's a citizenship corner. There's a librarian trained in helping people go down that pathway. And I stood up a new Office of Immigrant Affairs for the first time since the Hahn administration. And we've helped 50,000 people in the city of LA begin or finish their pathway to citizenship.
Now, if only they voted. While Latinos make up nearly 40% of California's population, the latest numbers show just 24% are registered voters, and even fewer Latinos actually cast ballots. The hope is ads like these will help boost those numbers in this all-important election year. I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
U.S. citizens can register to vote at clerk.lacity.org/elections. Well, over in Hollywood, they're not the Oscars, but they still shine the spotlight on Emmy-nominated shows that are made right here in L.A. Rasha Goel has the highlights.
Just like Dorothy said, in the classic Wizard of Oz, there is no place like home.
Hollywood is the home for production, and the term roll camera is being heard more often all over the city. Coinciding with the Emmys, Councilman Mitch O'Farrell's Made in Hollywood honors recently recognized 18 Emmy-nominated productions.
Anyone who knows the show, we love LA. We just sit around making up jokes about LA, and they stay in the show. So thank you all. We're so happy to be here and be honored.
TV shows such as Modern Family, Veep, and The People vs. O.J. Simpson were awarded for keeping their productions in Los Angeles.
There's a very large writing staff on a comedy, usually 13 to 15 people. And there's a lot of conversation with the network and the studios on content, because comedy does break barriers sometimes in certain subject matters and things like that. So it's much easier if they come to table reads and they have the dialogue right there.
This is Hollywood. They're great secondary markets, but they're just not Hollywood. I mean, look at the weather. It also means you're never rained out on a production. As a producer, that means so much. I can't tell you how much money is lost when you go to other places and you have to delay because of a rain date.
Made in Hollywood Honors was launched in 2011 and recognizes both Oscar and Emmy-nominated projects produced in the state of California. And this year, the list of honorees grew 20%.
We know that the film and television tax credit that the state honored us with has made a huge difference.
Shows such as Veep, who used to film in Maryland, have returned to LA.
The show was really fortunate they were able to apply for and get the tax credit. I think the huge benefit of moving to LA is that the writing staff and the cast and the crew all get to be close to their families.
Out of our 160,000 members across the country, 90,000 are LA locals. So do you realize that when we have production here and people can sleep in their own beds, they can go to their kids' soccer games?
The message here is pretty clear. There is no better place to shoot than Hollywood. From the City of Dreams, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
As important it is to keep production going in LA, it's just as important that post-production stays here too. Rasha Goel has more on a top post-production company that's infusing money into the city and its community. Rasha.
Yana, I'm here at Fuse FX, a new 27,000 square foot facility which provides post-production and visual effects for shows such as American Horror Story, The Walking Dead, and Empire. Now, the opening of this facility represents what the City of Angels is doing to keep production and post-production in Los Angeles, helping both Angelinos and the economy. Fuse FX, which has helped lead the resurgence of visual effects production in Los Angeles, was founded in 2006 at a time when many visual effects companies were curtailing operations in Los Angeles. Having been in LA for a decade, their new location in Sherman Oaks positions them within easy reach to studios and independent production companies.
The opening of this new office in Los Angeles is a bet that we can continue to lead the rebirth of visual effects in LA. Even with AB 1839, there's continued pressure to move work to Canada and other tax rebate locations with more extensive benefits. That makes it an ongoing challenge to sustain growth and stability in LA, but we've shown it can be done.
It will provide many benefits to our communities and the local economy by attracting hundreds of jobs and talented individuals to the San Fernando Valley and generating tax dollars for her neighborhood benefits.
The state has set aside $330 million in tax credits for productions in California. Last year, the city already saw an influx in productions.
LA City is becoming increasingly a business-friendly city, a place where we're lowering our gross receipts tax, a place where we're making it easy to do filming, we're giving our city buildings to productions, and I think that's a reflection of why 82 pilots filmed here in the city of LA last year, more than any city in the world.
With 175 employees, Fuse FX aims to tap into the talent and resources in LA.
The range of talent that we're able to draw from here, we probably have an average of 15 years experience with almost every employee we have, and there's no other place in the world you can do that.
Altano expects the company's Los Angeles staff to eventually reach 250. In Sherman Oaks, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
The mayor also says efforts continue to provide more incentives that work both for the city and productions. Well, beautifying your local neighborhood park can leave you beaming with pride. And in South LA, community members have plenty to be proud of. Gil Reyes explains how some new turf can prove to be a game changer in this 5th year of drought.
Go! What a difference in the South LA neighborhood. About a year ago, the soccer field at Trinity Recreation Center was an unsafe, uninviting dirt lot. Now look at it. It's green and gorgeous. But that's not grass they're playing in, it's synthetic turf.
This plan literally a game changer. Last year, the Department of Recreation and Parks announced plans to refurbish 100 or so of its soccer fields made of grass or dirt with synthetic turf. This park is the 39th park to do that.
Since there's no grass to maintain, the turf, made of a mineral called zeolite, is expected to save 500,000 gallons of water per year at Trinity alone. Councilman Curran Price says the city kicked in new playground equipment, security cameras, and lighting for good measure.
The improvements that have been made were largely done because of a group of mothers who were here who said that, we just want better for our kids. They were very active in lobbying, as a matter of fact, for the city council. We were to secure funding for many of the improvements that we've made.
But not everyone's a fan of artificial turf. Though you save money on your water bill, some say you're more likely to get injured playing in it. But Soccer Hall of Famer and former U.S. national team midfielder Hugo Perez disagrees.
I played on this turf also when I was a pro, and anybody can get hurt in anywhere. It doesn't have to do with the field. I think the field is great, but the young kids is perfect. It's flat, the ball rolls well. What else you want? I mean, this is great. I mean, you get kids from Central America, South America, Asia, Africa, and you bring them to a field like this, they're in heaven.
You need to be proud of your parks in your community because, you know what? We need you guys to take care of them. We can't do it without you. So we need all of you guys to help and participate in that. So just promise me, all you guys promise me that you'll do that? Yeah! Good.
In South L.A., I'm Gil Reyes for L.A. This Week.
The Department of Recreation and Parks says all of their newly refurbished soccer fields will save the city 63 million gallons of water per year. And even more transformations are coming to save the city even more water. While heading north now to Boyle Heights, where many folks came out to make sure they got their hands on a piece of LA history. As Gil Reyes reports, the now demolished 6th Street Bridge was near and dear to many people's hearts.
With rock music blaring in the background, hundreds stood in line to get a piece of downtown history.
What brought me here is for the 6th Street Bridge Rock. This is very important to me because I grew up here and I've been on 6th Street Bridge my whole life. My mom told me about it and me and my boyfriend used to skate it all the time. So this means a lot to us.
Welcome to Rock Day LA, a time to remember the original 6th Street Viaduct overlooking the LA River, a bridge that for decades graced many Hollywood films and linked downtown to the East Side. People got a chance to pick up free souvenirs from the structure, first come, first served.
My office, along with the Bureau of Engineering, are giving away 1,000 rocks that came from the demolition of the 6th Street Bridge. As many of you know, we unfortunately had to demolish our 1932 built 6th Street Bridge because the materials that were used to construct it is making eat itself up from the inside. One of the most iconic bridges in the city of LA, and a lot of people have emotional attachment to the bridge. They either crossed it, their parents crossed it, they saw it in the movie, so everyone wants a piece of the bridge.
There you go. Got a couple rocks. I figured I'd get some rocks in it because that's what caused the bridge to fail. So a little bit of LA history.
And what did you get?
I got a little bigger piece.
It's fun to watch. Some people want ones that are shaped as a heart. Some people want ones that are flat. Someone wants small. The kids love the really large ones, so it's just fun to be out here and sharing a piece of this history with the community.
An all-new 6th Street Bridge is under construction and set to open in 2019. From Rock Day LA in downtown, I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Collectors also walked home with certificates of authenticity and Rock Day LA t-shirts. Well, enjoy one final summer bash with tributes to Prince and David Bowie. Learn everything you've ever wanted to know about going green during the LA Green Festival and sail the open sea on a tall ship. All this in this week's Things to Do. The Los Angeles Zoo's 1980s themed Roaring Nights summer music series featuring tributes to Prince and David Bowie offers a totally tubular way to end the summer. The party for ages 18 and up keeps the hits happening and the tunes tight while transforming the zoo into one bodacious bash. Legendary 80s DJ Richard Blade spins the best music of the era, and 2 additional DJs oversee a one-of-a-kind silent disco, with individual musical choices offered via wireless headphones filled with lots of Bowie, Prince, and more. Roaring Nights also includes LA's favorite food trucks, full-service bars, and a neon paint party for guests. It all happens on Friday, September 16th from 7 to 11 p.m. at the LA Zoo. For more, visit lazoo.org. The LA Green Festival is a vibrant, dynamic marketplace where companies and organizations come to showcase their green products and services, and where people go to learn how to live healthier, more sustainable lives. You can shop and enjoy vegan, vegetarian, organic foods, hands-on demos, educational activities, and inspirational speakers. The festival takes place September 16th through the 18th at the Los Angeles Convention Center. For more, visit greenfestivals.org. Sail the San Pedro Bay and watch the sunset from the deck of a tall ship during the Tall Ships Family Adventure Sails. You can sit back and relax or become part of the crew, your choice. All ages are welcome. Be sure to wear soft-soled shoes. Layered clothing is recommended, and don't forget to bring your sense of adventure. Sailing vessels provide unparalleled access to coastal ecosystems, in addition to introducing students to the art and science of sailing. Learning comes to life aboard those tall ships on Saturday, September 17th at Berth 78 in San Pedro. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kane from all of us here at LA This Week. Thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
I'm Kevin from Chatsworth, offering you a taste of New Orleans since 1986. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
Good morning and welcome to the Los Angeles City Council. Today is Tuesday, September 13th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Harris Dawson, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rue, Wesson. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. First order of business, please.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Okay, Councilmember Rue moves. Councilmember O'Farrell seconds. Next item, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Okay, Councilmember Huizar moves. Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson seconds. Next item, please.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday and time for the flag salute.
Okay, if we can get everybody in council chambers to please rise for the flag salute, we're going to ask our council birthday boy, Bob Blumenfield, to please lead us, if he would, in the flag salute. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, please put your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you very much for that. And members, if I could please draw your attention to the agenda. Madam Clerk, let's go ahead and run through the agenda now.
Mr. President, there are requests to continue item 4 to Friday, September 16th, and to refer item 22 to the Budget and Finance Committee.
All right, that'll be the order without objection. Next item, please.
Additionally, the Department of Building and Safety requests that 1E and 1F be continued for 2 weeks to September 27th, and that item 1H be received and filed as the lien has been paid in full.
And that'll be the order without objection. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Items 1 through 5 are items noticed for public hearing.
Okay, and do we have cards on any of those?
Yes, we have cards on all items.
Of course. So we'll go ahead and hold those items for cards. Next item, please.
Items 6 through 14 are items for which public hearings have been held.
All right, and so members, those items have been held. Do we have any specials? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take all those items. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please. Oh.
And Mr. President.
14 forthwith, please.
Okay, 13 and 14th will be forthwith per Councilmember Bob Blumenfield without objection. That'll be the order. Thank you very much. Next items, please.
And excuse me, Mr. President, for the record, the ords for items 10 and 11 will be held over 1 week to September 20th unless reconsidered with 12 members present. And the ordinance for item 12 is approved without the urgency clause unless reconsidered with 12 members present.
Okay, then we can always reconsider those if need be. Ms. Martinez.
Ask for reconsideration on item 12.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open the roll for reconsideration to put that back on as a special.
Thank you.
Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that item is now reconsidered. Do you want us to hold that for now?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and hold that on the desk. Next item, please.
Items 15 through 21 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
All right, we'll go ahead and open the roll for consideration on those items. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those items are considered, and do we have cards on those items?
Yes, there are cards on all the items.
Okay, we'll go ahead and hold all items on the desk for those cards. Next item, please.
That takes council back to items called special or general public comment.
We'll go ahead and take the cards now. Okay, Mr. Sachs. Arnold, you've got cards. It's 1 minute on each item and only 1 minute per item per card that you filled out with a maximum of 5 minutes and 1 minute for public comment followed at the end for items that are not on the agenda but are under our purview. Arnold Sachs, are you here? You're not here? Okay. Well, then we'll go ahead and file all your cards and submit them as if they were filled out but you weren't here. The next speaker, Donna. On items 1, 3, 18, and 20. Again, 1 minute per item let us know the item in advance that you're speaking on, please. 1, 3, 18, and 20.
Okay, number 1. Congratulations, only 6 liens. That's really an improvement. I'm surprised the Democrats couldn't come up with, drum up more pretend violations to destroy people's lives. In the meantime, businesses are going across the street, going out. And so we got a problem still that these going after the small people with their small little liens, and the Democrats don't care if the big things are going way out. And so only thing that's encouraging, that it was only 6 liens. They'll probably hit us with 30 another day. So I don't believe that that it's going to go out altogether. And you have me down for 3? Because I put down for 3.
The 4 that you filled out.
Okay, number 3. Oh no, yeah, number 3. Let's say 18 and 20 on public comment. You probably didn't. They probably didn't give you that one then, even though I gave you 3. Okay, number 18. It shows here, number 18 over here, reward for information leading to responsible for the death of these people. Again, we see that we need to be able to protect ourselves, because we can't stop these people from going out and killing you. So people have to protect themselves. People that choose which way they want to protect themselves, whether they want to protect, depend on the police to be there at every second, or some people who want to carry should be able to carry and protect themselves with a firearm. And they take the courses, and they know how to handle them, so and know how to load them. They should be able to protect themselves. We need to be able to do this. And we got next one we got over here is number 20. Eligible taxable bond proceeds for the Tide Marketplace. 1.2 million Hollywood redevelopment project. This looks like one of the Garcetti would love to have. Spending this is another CRA project in the 13th district. They just love to build and just destroy us with Tide Marketplace. They just want to have huge amount of things because they love big developers. Democrats love big developers. They would just love to have everything destroyed with big, huge development. That's just, they don't care about the small people. They don't care about the homeless people. They don't care about video conferencing. All they care about is huge, big development. Democrats are going to destroy us. We got to stop the Democrats.
Please stay on the subject.
And so that's what it is.
And you have 1 minute for general public comment if you want to go ahead and take that now.
Los Angeles, I want everyone to look up book Crisis of Character by Gary Byrne, discuss Hillary's temperament from a view of Secret Service. She doesn't have temperament to be the president. She doesn't have the health. And Los Angeles, she's not compassionate. She didn't care about those killed in Benghazi. She's not trustworthy. Doesn't know basic computer, email, classified material to keep us safe. Even bleach them. In my opinion, she's criminal.
Mr. President, the presidential race is not within the jurisdiction of the city.
Along with all the Democrats and Garcetti, don't trust a Democrat because they're not for the people. They're just for their special interests, like Garcetti's for the special interest. I'm not going to vote for Garcetti this time around. You're on your own, Mr. Garcetti. Because he didn't bring back that video conferencing, can care less about what the United States, like Hillary doesn't care about us either. So, no on the Democrats, no on the Democrats. I'm a deplorable.
All righty. Please, no applauding. And we're going to try to keep the decorum in this chamber during this meeting so we can continue with the public's business. Please, thank you very much. I know... Ms. McAllister, you get passionate, so I'm going to call you up now, and you get item, you filled out a card on item 1, and so we'll go ahead and put them in.
I have 4 cards.
You have 4 cards? I only have 2.
Oh, not doing that again. I gave him 4 cards. Where was 1 public comment, 13 and 14. Now, I'm starting to take photos of my cards because you guys claim you're not getting them. He said he gave you 4 cards. 1, public comment 1314.
Because 13 and 14 already had public comment, ma'am. So the only cards that are before us for general public comment are item 1.
So do I get 5 minutes?
Okay, can you please start a clock? You got 1 minute for item 1, please.
Item 1, the affordable housing. I want people to know that there's over $3 million in a program called the Handy Worker Program that's supposed to give money to homeowners who cannot fix up those violations. You get $5,000 each. I only got 45 seconds. I just started talking. You get $5,000 each. I also want to say that the city, this council, is forgiving loans and then forgiving loans. Here, forgiving a loan for $5 million. We don't have housing, but you're forgiving loans. That loan money can come back here and build some houses. I believe that loan money is going in your pockets. You're getting kickbacks from that loan money that you're forgiving. If we give loans to these companies, your buddies, we want the money back. We don't forgive them. You're not forgiving these homeowners. You don't forgive anyone. So we want it back. Also, we want an investigation of this council for corruption. We don't have a state of emergency for homelessness. We have a state of emergency for corruption in this council and the mayor, Eric Garcetti.
Okay, so you have 1 minute for general public comment now.
General public comment. 1 down, many to go. Hillary Clinton is not going to be the only one. A lot of you and your families are cursed. When you abuse and misuse and lie, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton signed us 3 strikes. They called black people predators. Yes, they did, and they destroyed the black family in this nation. She's getting what she deserves.
Again, not under the purview of this body.
This is my public comment.
Not for anything. It's only under the purview of this body, ma'am. Yeah. Whatever's under the purview of this body.
It is under the purview. This is called politics.
Yeah.
And the same is going to happen to this council. You're not doing your job. I'm seeing more and more homeless people while you're giving permission for $600,000 condos to be built. There's one right there on 8th and Bixel. $600,000. You're not building affordable housing. When I ride around, I ask these developers, I say, do you have affordable housing? No. But you claim there's an emergency. There's no emergency. There's an emergency on corruption. And Garcetti, I hope he goes to prison first, and some of you will follow.
Thank you very much. Please don't applause. Thank you very much. Please, no applauding. Thank you very much. No booing, no applaud. We want to try to keep the decorum in the rest of the chambers so we can continue with the public's business. Thank you very much. Let me ask you a question. For those of you, I notice we have some young visitors here as well and some other visitors as well. For those of you who, this is their first time visiting LA City Council chambers, by a show of hands, who's their first time here? Quite a few. So welcome to public comment. Welcome to our First Amendment and freedom of speech. We've decided in the way that I'm calling the cards here today to build what's called a crescendo of voice and freedom, and as you will hear as the speakers progress. This is one of the great freedoms of our country as well. And so with that, stay tuned for Ms. Antonia Ramirez. Please come on up on item 3, please. How are you today? Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I'm ready.
Item 3, please.
Item 3. Okay, item 3. Now that you cut me my time here, you started the clock already. Jesus Christ. First of all, item number 3. There are 2 firemen missing in Yosemite. Please keep them in prayer, ladies and gentlemen. There's 2 firemen missing. Please let us pray for their safety and their safe return, please. And we need more firemen. We absolutely need more firemen because these these warriors of the flames and the infernos are taking on too much. We need to put more firemen on the jobs rather than putting these few and brilliant and warriors out in these flaming infernos. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the city should be hiring more firemen rather than spending money and subsidizing all these goddamn wetbacks and goddamn gangbangers. So please, thank you very much.
You have 1 more minute for general public comment.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, We need to start weeding out all the dirty cops out of Rampart. First of all, let's get rid of all the wetbacks and the gangbangers out of Rampart Police Department. Let's get rid of Officer Rodriguez and Officer Sanchez and Officer Tranco. Let's start cleaning up the fire departments as well as the police departments. Weed out all the wetbacks and the gangbangers. They have the barrio mentality. Let's put the good ones or keep the good ones, and let's weed out the bad. Shut down the Rampart Police Department. They are notoriously corrupted. Shut down the Rampart Police Department and the West Los Angeles Police Department. You got too many wetbacks, dirty rogue pussy cops who do not take on the goddamn gangbangers and deport the goddamn gangbangers and wetbacks. Furthermore, I understand that the police department, when they arrest, if they arrest a gangbanger, they do not notify ICE or INS. Then these goddamn gangbangers are released out on the street again. Stop again.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. McAllister, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Mr. Walsh? Mr. Walsh, I believe we have some young students here as well. Mr. Walsh was a former teacher. So recognize and appreciate that. Good morning. 1 minute on number 18.
John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org. I'd like to point out that the mayor, a year ago at the NHL celebration, said big effing deal right there in front of the whole world, except he didn't say effing, and nobody complained about it, and nobody has complained ever about what I've said here. And if you have any complaints from anybody, show them now. In fact, there is no complaints. The mayor uses the F word anytime he feels like it, and then you get down on your knees and do the Monica Lewinsky thing.
Stay on the subject. Stay on the subject. Mr. Walsh.
Oh, you do?
Mr. Walsh, come on.
Okay, I'm going to go now to general public comment. Incidentally, you cannot, under the rules, Mr. City Attorney, have one rule when Herb Wesson is there, maximum 4 minutes, and another rule when this gentleman is here, 4 minutes. In fact, what you're doing is the same thing to Herb Wesson that Monica Lewinsky did and got all over her dress. In fact, we have 2 sets of rules here, and the city attorney, and you cannot have public comment on an agenda item until it's been called. And I'd like to point out, as far as vaccine, we need a vaccine. The Hillary bug. The Hillary bug, it was contagious when she showed up at 9/11, and it was for weeks.
We stay on the items under our purview.
I'm on this issue. I'm asking for vaccines for anybody here at City Council who was exposed to the Hillary bug. And they are not talking about how contagious it is. Our staff has the Hillary bug. Everybody has it. Anybody who is exposed to her coughing deserves the Hillary vaccine.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. All right. Now we've got a special presentation. Councilmember Cedillo, if you are ready, the floor is yours.
Flores went back to school. Mr. Flores went back to school. He actually was at community college for a couple of years, and while he was at community college, he kept the program going.
Wow. He was also Yvette's teacher. Yvette was on the team.
Are you kidding me? I taught her for 2 years.
Doing a knockout job. Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Cedillo, that's a very handsome group of folk you have with you this morning.
Notice the glasses, Mr. President? Everybody seems to have some great pair of glasses.
And I love them. You should put your glasses on so you can be part of every. There you are. Everybody has glasses. Go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. So this is special. This is the Stand and Deliver Day for us today. This is the day in which we acknowledge teachers and leaders from community neighborhood schools, part of LAUSD. First, I want to acknowledge Principal Regina Marcus Martinez, who's with us here. And please, everybody. And Mr. Samuel Collins. And we're here today to honor this group of young men and women behind me, future leaders of our city, many of who, if they choose so, will be sitting in the seats that we now sit in. Others will go on to be scientists and be engineers, people who will lead our city, our state, and our nation. Because this is the Benjamin Franklin High School academic decathlon team. And this team is one of the top teams in the nation. They are third in the city. They are seventh in the nation. Is that right? Number 2 in the nation? Oh my God. This is an amazing, amazing team that prides itself in representing a working class community. They pride themselves in representing the underdog and facing seemingly insurmountable socioeconomic odds. We have 6 of the team's 9 members have returned from last year and 5 new members. I want to acknowledge them because they deserve it. Let me introduce you to Ruben Aguiano. Where are you? There you go. Raise your hand. Vanessa Delgado. All right. Claudio Franquez. He is at college. Lisa Wang. Lisa. Okay. Alex Munoz. Joseph Osorio. Aubrey Reyes. Jeffrey Romero. Carlos Solano. And Kai Tran, who is not available. She is also off at college. The new students are Henry Abarca, Matthew Almazan, Alejandra Delgado, David Garcia, Zuri Marroquin, and Hazel Villatoro. I'd like to present this resolution to Alex Munoz, member of the team. Here you go, Alex.
Come on, let's give them all a round of applause. You can do better than that. Fantastic.
Many of you know Yvette from my office. She actually was taught by one of these teachers. She comes from the class, and we're very proud of her. I'm not surprised that she does such a knockout job for us because now it's evident with this type of training and preparation. Alex, you want to say a few words to represent your group? Thank you. He's all prepped. He has his notes on his little...
Good morning. My name is Alex Munoz. On behalf of the Academic Decathlon team, it is an absolute honor to stand here and receive this humbling recognition for the countless hours, both during the day and at night, dedicated to academic decathlon and the academic excellence and achievement we have succeeded in receiving. The Academic Decathlon is a competition ripe with the top students from the top schools across 50 states. It is our honor and privilege to have been given the opportunity to represent our school, our community, and ultimately the city of Los Angeles in what has been recognized as the largest academic competition across the nation. Given the nature of this intense competition, we are renowned as the underdogs. We come from a Hispanic-dominant school in which the majority of students live under the poverty line. As such, we stand as a beacon of possibility, if you may, that no racial, economic, circumstantial, or otherwise daunting barrier can permanently hinder academic success and achievement. And thus, we demonstrate and hope to empower other youth who might not have the conventional resources and support by which to succeed, to recognize that which this great city has proven time and time again, that anything is possible, any goal can be obtained through hard work, dedication, and resilience. It is with humility and the utmost gratitude that we gladly accept this recognition and hope to continue making Los Angeles proud as Benjamin Franklin High School's academic decathlon team. Thank you.
Wow, no, thank you. Very well done. Give them a round of applause. Fantastic. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Regina Marquez Martinez. I'm principal of Benjamin Franklin. I was class of '85 alumni. I see a lot of these Franklin Panthers leaving marks in society. I want to thank and I want to say that I'm humbled and I'm privileged to work with coaches and teachers such as Samuel Collins and to work with these students that are very resilient and that really, really, really work hard to make their dreams come true. They're competitive, and any student in the city of Los Angeles has the potential to be anything that this country allows them to do. So I'm just very proud and very humbled to be their principal. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues.
Muchísimas gracias, colegas.
Go to the back. We're going to take a picture.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you again.
Muchísimas gracias nuevamente.
Great presentation.
Una muy linda presentación.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and turn our attention back to the agenda on 1D. We're going to continue for 30 days, and that should take us to about October 11th. And so without objection, 1D will continue for 30 days. But we do have a card on 1C, Richard Long. Richard, if you want to come on up for a minute, please. Richard Long.
Has that item been continued or what?
Hey, good morning.
Well, I just want to say that these are false charges. I do not keep trash, rubbish, and garbage on my property. That's a lie. I put it out with the trash once a week. I'm paying enough for the service. I might as well get something for it. And my vehicles are holding enclosed from view by walls and fences. So, I mean, I'm not guilty of these charges. These are false charges. And you guys can't just take people's money and fine them without giving them their day in court. That's their constitutional right under the Bill of Rights. So,
okay, so
you're violating people's constitutional rights in this city, and that's a federal felony.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue your items. So you can, if you want to go ahead to the side here and meet with some of the staff, they'll try to work through some of your questions or concerns, and we'll continue it for 30 days. It'll take us to October 11th, and so we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, sir? And we'll go ahead on the remaining items then and vote on item 1. If we can open the roll on item 1 for those remaining items, close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, at this time, since we do have 12 members, we'll go ahead. We've got 14 members. We'll go ahead and open the roll to reconsider all of the ordinances. Unless any of the, yes?
Item 10 and 11.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and open the roll for reconsideration on 10 and 11. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, those are reconsidered now and before us, council members, so we'll go ahead and open the roll on those two items. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Those are approved. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll go ahead and turn our attention now to item 3. We've got one card. Ann Job by item 3. Ann? One of our budget advocates, I recognize.
Yes.
Good morning.
I'm Ann Job, charged with government affairs for the Sylmar Neighborhood Council. I'm here in large measure to make sure that the City Council continue to work for CD7 in interest, even though we are now without a council member. I'm on the Budget Advocates Fire Committee and will be looking for opportunities for savings in the fire department. May I suggest that you begin by having the fire department assign permanent captains
for the 2 shifts that are now being filled by captains being paid overtime at Silmar's Single Station 91. The Silmar Neighborhood Council has submitted 2 community impact statements regarding Silmar's need for at least 1 more fire station and more fire services. It is generally recognized that Silmar is a community with heightened emergency risk. Thank you for your consideration.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and open the roll on item 3, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
And there's a request to send that urgent forthwith, so we'll go ahead and open the roll for urgent forthwith vote on item 3. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great, thank you. That is approved. Okay, item 19 is called special by cards. We've got a number of cards on item 19. Jim Rodart, or Rodarty, followed by Karen Gilman, followed by Beth Doris, Aliza Murrieta, followed by Tracy Clark. So come on up. Now, okay, good morning.
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Jim Rodarty. I've lived 25 years on Windsor Boulevard. 5 doors down from the Windsor lot. Since 2011, we've been requesting Paramount not to use the current fire lane as a new entrance exit called the Plymouth Gate. It's only 1/2 block away from Windsor Gate and 3/4 block outside my doorstep. All the neighbors, most living more than 500 feet from Paramount, are volunteering their time, writing letters, attending hearings, neighborhood meetings, and council meetings. Please respect our expert advice about how the traffic issues can be prevented with adjustment of development plans so the traffic will not need mitigation costs. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Morning.
Good morning. My name is Karen Gilman. I live on Elmwood Avenue. I'm here this morning representing the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council's position and the Larchmont Village Neighborhood Association's positions on the Paramount Pictures Master Plan. You already have in your council records the GWNC's opposition to the Paramount Pictures Master Plan, the specific plan, the tentative track map, the special sign district, and the final environmental impact report. Some changes have been made with which the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council and Larchmont Village Neighborhood Council appreciate. At the same time, because of Brown Act constraints, we don't have a newer statement for you. We do appreciate our council member David Rue's attention to our great concerns, and council member O'Farrell's attention to what he had to address as well with Paramount. There are still more changes to be made, and we respectfully request that you listen, and thank you for listening to neighborhood groups and individual neighbors. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. I'm Beth Doris. I'm counsel for the appellant opposing the track map. We're going to be heard at Plum this afternoon at 2:30 and suggest that the timing of this extension is inappropriate from a procedural standpoint. It suggests predetermination. We also wanted to point out that the City Council just within the last week or two adopted emergency findings to curtail the 30-day comment period for the development agreement on this project to 10 days. Extending the track map appeal on the same project for 30 days exactly contradicts your prior findings. Thank you.
No, thank you. Our final speaker. Good morning.
I believe there's one following me.
Oh,
This
okay.
is Aliza Murrieta.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I'm a homeowner on Bronson Avenue. My husband and I have been living and raising our family there for over 17 years. My primary concern with the Paramount Plan is its effect on traffic. In the last few years, the increase in rush hour traffic, especially in the morning in the direction of Paramount, has been marked with an increase of accidents, aggressive driving, and road rage incidents, some of which I witness as I walk my dogs. Now with Paramount hoping to add thousands of employees and 2 parking structures near my home, 1 a block and a half away, I'm concerned with the line of cars entering and exiting, with my ability to come and go from my home, the safety of my children with the additional traffic, and the overall effect on our quality of life, which already we've seen some impact before these changes have been made. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Tracy Clark. I have lived on Plymouth Boulevard for the last 25 years. I'm also a realtor. I'm a neighbor involved in preserving my neighborhood, both being involved in the ICO and the revisions and the HPOZ steering committee for my neighborhood. So very concerned about the historic aspects. And my ongoing concerns about the Paramount Master Plan is that $100,000 is woefully inadequate to address the traffic and mitigate the issues, especially in the course of, over the course of 25 years. I'd also like to see the 150-foot building moved across the street from RKO, where it doesn't conflict with the historic element of the RKO studios and imposing height on the neighborhood just south of it. I'm opposed to the Plymouth Gate because the curve in the 600 block already makes traffic difficult, and with the additional traffic coming into the studio, it'll make it even more of a concern.
Great, thank you very much. I believe that concludes all of the speaker cards now on that item, so we'll go ahead and open the roll on that item, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
And there's a request to move that forthwith, so that'll be the order without objection. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we also are going to go ahead and put on the board items 2, 5, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, and 21. So those items are now before us. 2, 5, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, and 21. Okay, got them all? All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and open the roll on those items, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, those items are approved. Thank you very much. All right, we have a few cards for general public comment, which we can go ahead and take now. Jacqueline Richardson? Are you still here? Yes? Oh, good morning, ma'am. Come on up. David Wheatley? And Ann Job again. Ann? I know Ann spoke earlier. I don't see her anymore. So perhaps she stepped out. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Too many black people are dying in these residential hotels. It's been going on for over 2 years. I heard someone on the bus telling this man, don't move in there. They have bad sanitation. In other words, she was seeing too many bodies being moved out, but she didn't say how many bodies and how long. It's zip code 90013 and 90014. They have some residential hotels with at least 8 or more floors, and black people are dying in them. It's hard to find out they're dying because there are so many floors and so many corners. You don't see the coroner come in. You don't see the fire department. You don't see the police department coming in to question if they question, because they move the bodies out pretty quick. And the place is so big you don't even know your next door neighbor. They can be checked by zip code. Coroner offer reports by zip code, by address, how many have died in a certain year, or by police reports, the zip code and how many have died within a
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Wheatley? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm David Wheatley. I come down here about once a year. The topic I would like to speak on is the multi-unit housing and developments going in Silver Lake. The number of units is getting more and more. There's one going up on Avenel Street that is supposed to be a simple addition to a house. Ends up they tear down the entire first floor, build a brand new first floor, an entire second floor, and put a balcony on the top. We need to have some way that we get notified about these things within 500 to 1,000 feet. Also, I think the construction community is a favorite place for people getting out of prison to go and get jobs. And I think we need to up the police presence within 500 to 1,000 feet of construction sites. These workers have access to tools that are dangerous and can use them to vandalize property. And separately, if we're going to be naming squares after people, is there any way in the agenda we can say why and who these people are? That would help. And I guess that's my minute.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good to see you again. Ann, are you still here? I didn't. I thought you spoke earlier and left. Okay. So, well, thanks for coming earlier. So we'll go ahead and note and file your card for general public comment. That concludes general public comment. Okay, we have item 12 before us. Is there any council members wanting to call item 12 special?
Thank you, Mr. President. We're waiting for an amendment to be introduced. I'm not sure if that's been done yet.
It has not been done. And
I have questions either way. So, colleagues, when we took this issue up almost 2 weeks ago, I was pleased to see that the action that we took was to recognize and respect the neighborhoods and the integrity of some of our neighborhoods in our district. We wanted to ensure that any changes to our second dwelling ordinance would be open and a thorough process so that people can feel like they participated in such a process. But I still had some issues regarding the units that were going to get grandfathered in. So I introduced motion 19B to address some of these concerns. I'd like the city attorney to please come to the table because I have a couple of questions for you. Members, I'm still concerned that if we're not careful with how we're grandfathering these new units and how the clause is being written, that we will short-circuit the rights and the process of the residents who follow the city's process and promptly contested the permits that had been issued. That's one of my biggest concerns because it pertains to one of my constituents in my district. These residents have all paid their fees to be able to appeal the permit in this area. And if we do not figure out how to deal with my question in terms of what happens with their appeal process once we adopt this ordinance and we grandfather that permit, then what are these people are supposed to do next? What's their next alternative? I haven't gotten an answer that is satisfying to me, and this is why I had asked for for you to come to the table. My question just is, what happens to the appeal if the ordinance is adopted? Are we essentially invalidating and predetermining the outcome of their appeal, their filed appeal?
Terry Kaufman, Messia City Attorney's Office. If the sole basis of the appeal relates to the reliance on 120, which has been invalidated by the court, and the council grandfathers in all units that were in plan check, have already gotten their construction and approved and so forth, then the appeal would be moot. But as I mentioned last time, if there are other bases for the appeal, the building's too tall, there are other issues with setback and things like that, which may or may not be the case, then that could be appealed.
See, my concern is that you are going to deny their appeal because we've adopted this ordinance, and so therefore grandfathering would then apply to the contested permit. That's my issue here. What happens to this couple who's going through the appeal process, who filed all the necessary paperwork. If we move forward with adopting this ordinance, you're essentially going to deny their appeal, and so that contested appeal is going to be grandfathered in. That's the issue that has not been resolved, and which I think is completely unfair to these people who have filed all the necessary paperwork to be able to appeal this permit.
Well, there are other issues under avenues under the charter that would allow you to assert jurisdiction. But that's the effect of what would happen with if the appeal hearing went forward, then the commission would be told there's an ordinance here, you have to factor that into the decision and whether or not their appeal is granted. So whether it was done as a disapproval or they did a receive and file, I can't say which way the commission would go, but that's really what would be the case.
So I have another question. In earlier stage of their appeal process, the appellate received a determination letter from Building and Safety. And what caught my attention is that Building and Safety concludes that they did not issue the permit in error. But they also concluded the following statement, and this is what was in the letter that was issued to the appellant. And I quote, "Based upon the Superior Court order, the building permit is invalid to extent issued upon valid ZA Memo 120. The applicant has not acknowledged the Superior Court's order and judgment, and that inspections, a finalized permit or certificate of occupancy does not provide vested rights and does not protect against possible legal challenges upon invalid ZA Memo 120. So my question is, with that determination, why hasn't the permit been revoked? This is an absolute mess. And again, the court sided with the appellate. We haven't done anything to resolve this permit. And in the determination letter, it's very troubling.
Well, council members, the revocation is not self-executing here, so it's subject to due process. So if Building and Safety were to issue a notice of intent to revoke, that would allow the property owner to arguably apply for a variance or some other process, and that would occur pursuant to their due process rights before revocation would occur. But I'm going to turn the rest of this answer over to Mr. Blau.
Good morning, council member. This is Steve Blau of the City Attorney's Office. I think what would happen, as is what happened typically in litigation, is that if there's been a change in the law by council, the appellate proceedings on that challenge, the administrative proceedings would proceed, and the administrative body making a decision would have to look at the issue based upon what the law was at the time that the issue was decided. And the reason the permit is, the revocation is not self-executing is a couple. One, because at the moment the law is in flux, and second, because the property owner who constructed that unit would have to be given an opportunity to claim to the administrative body why they believe the permit should not be revoked.
Well, again, I still don't think it's fair for the residents who have the rights to have a fair and impartial appeal process be undermined with this action. And so nothing of what you've said to me or my staff is to my satisfaction in terms of protecting these people's rights to a fair appeal process, which is all we're asking for.
They would have the appeal process.
I disagree.
But I believe the decision maker would make the decision based upon the law existing at the time of the decision.
Mr. Chair, I have another question, but I need more information. I don't know if Mr. O'Farrell has an additional questions to ask. Thank you.
Mr. O'Farrell. Thank you, Mr. President. So in the past week, when I've been looking at this more closely, I feel that we have another category of stakeholders who are in limbo. It's not just those whose applications were placed in limbo by decisions that were made in the previous few years. It's a different category of those in limbo who have been bounced away from the planning counter when they've tried to submit applications for projects or accessory dwelling units, and it's a very small universe.
I'm sorry, just to interrupt you for a second. If we can keep the sidebar conversations down a little bit, I know there's a lot of conversations going on in the chambers, and it's a little bit of an echo chamber too at that. So we want to make sure we can hear what you're saying. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I've heard from a handful of my constituents who really are facing possible financial hardship, significant financial hardship, where they've paid for the permit applications, et cetera, but they're in that, like I said, different category of limbo that I have an obligation to help resolve. And I think we do have a way forward. And it's not out of keeping with the CPC's recommendation of actually inserting a time certain. So my amendment, you'll see, does that, achieves that objective by putting that as September 30th in the adoption of this way forward that we're talking about here. It's also come to light that there is problematic language in the current draft that goes from, instead of reliance, the term reliance. If you could maybe elaborate on why that's problematic, the term reliance, and how you might need to change that.
Thank you, Councilmember. Steve Blau, Deputy City Attorney from the City Attorney's Office. I think it would be helpful if the language in reliance upon was changed to in accordance with, and the reason that would be helpful is I think it would help eliminate some confusion between members of the public as to who would be grandfathered and who wouldn't. And it would be helpful if council would state on the record its intention, exactly the universe of property owners that they would like to grandfather. And the date as well would be helpful. Typically, grandfathering does include a date. It provides a date certain that would be helpful in litigation and for the public as well, so people know exactly what date is involved, is before or after a certain date.
Right, so those that are either poised to submit and they've done all the upfront heavy lifting, or they've already tried to submit, they would be able to proceed with this limited window that we're imposing. Is that accurate?
If the date was set after today, I believe that's right, and I believe the council member is correct. Building and safety is here, but I believe there was a handful of people who submitted building plans that were accepted by building and safety before a certain date, and then beginning on a date after that, building and safety stopped accepting those plans based upon invalid 120. So there is a dichotomy between those groups of people, and there are also people, I understand, who have completed plans sufficient for plan check but have not been able to get them accepted by building and safety because of this policy. So if there was a date certain that was set and it was after today, it would allow all those people who have those plans that are either completed or tried to submit them and weren't able to have them accepted, be accepted and grandfathered as well.
Thank you. I would argue that if we don't include that small universe of stakeholders, then we really are not being fully responsive to the issue, much less our constituents. So a few questions that I have, well, I'm a little over already. I'll keep this as brief as I can. In thinking ahead, one of the issues that Ms. Martinez is really grappling with is in terms of size of the structure. In the one particular instance where in the constituent wasn't able to adequately file the appeal because of the sheer size. Is there a way moving forward, thinking ahead, that we can impose perhaps height limitations in relation to FAR and what's allowable within whatever the square foot lot is, the buildable? And we're talking total buildable, meaning if there is a structure on a lot and say the limit is 2,500 square feet because it's a 5,000 square foot lot, if someone has a 2,000 square foot structure, they would only be allowed to build up to a 500 square foot house or accessory dwelling unit. within that, might there be a way to impose a height limitation? Because I think that's one of the concerns with accessory dwelling units is just the sheer height and the problems that causes.
Ken Bernstein, Department of City Planning staff. Councilman, yes, as the department looks at preparing a permanent ordinance addressing accessory dwelling units or second dwelling units, we could look at those types of limitations. We also would point out that as you're indicating, some of our existing single-family zoning restrictions do further constrain what can be built as a second dwelling unit on a property. And we're going through a process now through our Recode LA effort of dramatically revamping our single-family zoning throughout the city. So we're dealing with those issues of neighborhood compatibility through provisions that go beyond this particular ordinance. In the short term, as the department has been directed by the council to consider interim steps, including a potential zoning administrator interpretation. We would be taking interim measures, really stripping out the discretionary provisions under the law currently and interpreting those areas where there is ambiguity. So we would not be making additional policy in the short term, but as we look at a more permanent ordinance, we can consider those issues of neighborhood compatibility.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any, lastly, are there any pending state issues that further influence or impact what we decide to do here in the city?
Councilman, as we indicated when we were last here, there are 2 state bills that have just been approved in Sacramento and that are pending on the governor's desk awaiting signature. We've begun analyzing that legislation. I don't believe that those bills significantly impact this question of grandfathering and the fairly straightforward ordinance that's before you today, but they certainly do constrain and will shape our recommendations on permanent regulations, permanent ordinance moving forward.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay.
So I have a final question before I close. So you began to answer my question about why the permit hasn't been revoked. But what process, where are we in the process? Has the developer or the owner been notified? Where are we on that? Do you know?
That's a building and safety question.
Okay. And they're not here.
They're here if you want to bring them up.
Okay, well, in terms of my concerns with the grandfather clause, like I stated earlier, nothing you've said to me has brought me anywhere near being satisfied. Is there anyone here for building and safety, though? Oh, you are. You should have said who. I didn't know you were here. So my question is, where are we on the process of revoking the permit? Have the property owners been notified?
Good morning. I'm Ifa Kashefi, Chief of Permit and Engineering Bureau. The projects that the permit were issued after February 25th, 2016, we issued a stop work order and also intend to revoke the permit and give them a time frame. We haven't revoked those permits because we were waiting for the direction of what the new ordinance would give us or any court order. But we have issued a stop work order, meaning no construction work for those would continue.
And that has been related to the property owner?
Right. Yes, yes.
Waiting for future action.
For any of the for the appeal.
So you stopped the work. You've issued a work order to stop construction until the city council took action.
This is for any of the permits were issued after February 25th, after the date of the court. Yes.
Excuse me, Terry Kaufman, Mesilla City Attorney's Office, but I think the councilwoman is asking about a specific.
Oh, I'm talking about the Van Nuys resident.
On Noble.
The Noble appeal was filed to department, and when we reviewed the appeal, position of building and safety was permit was issued prior to 2/25th. So we did not make error on that. Because at the time, it was no indication from the court.
No, I read the determination letter. So where are we in terms of notifying the property owner on their revocation?
We released the report we wrote on the appeal. We released it to the owner and also the people who appealed it, appellant. And the next process on that, it goes to the planning because the appeal is under 1226K. So it goes to planning and it's going to be appeal process through planning to the two different phases. You know, first it goes to the ZA, and after that there is another process if it still continues.
If I can just jump in, Kevin Keller, City Planning Deputy Director. I just want to add the Planning Department has received the second level appeal on this project.
I can barely hear you. There's so much.
The Planning
President, I can't even
please,
hear.
please, if we can ask the
We need to
once
lower
again the conversations here.
Go to the hallway.
Yes, please take it in the back.
Thank you. Kevin Keller, Deputy Director, City Planning. Just wanted to let the council know the Planning Department has received the second level appeal on this project. Certainly can't speak to the merits of the appeal. We're going to be looking at that. It has been assigned to our Valley Office, Zoning Administration, and is pending scheduling for a hearing. The anticipated timeline for resolving these kinds of appeals can be up to 4 months, and at the zoning administrator level, there's also a second level of an appeal available to our Planning Commission after that. So just wanted to provide that guidance to the council.
All right. Thank you. Mr. President, I just want to conclude by saying that I understand that there's legal and procedure concerns with my motion 19B, but I still don't feel that it's right for us to take action and leaving an appellant and a homeowner and a constituent of mine out to dry. I certainly appreciate the body and the commitment that we have towards a transparent process, and I was part of that at the very beginning. But I cannot in good conscience support this and not support my Van Nuys resident, especially when I feel that the city, that they followed the process to appeal this permit, and that we as a city are basically turning our back on them, essentially, by not allowing them to fulfill their appeal process before we even take action here today. So the judge found that with regards to the second unit dwellings, that the city messed this up to begin with, and I feel terrible that these constituents have to be put in this position because the city did not basically mess this up to begin with. And so unless that gets corrected, I cannot support this moving forward.
Okay, Mr. O'Farrell, we have the items have been amendments have been circulated, and because of that now, and there are amendments, we're going to go ahead and turn it over for general public comment again because it's been changed to the point where we need to open it up again for comment. So with that, Mr. O'Farrell, I know your name is on the board again. You're okay with card? Okay. So we're going to go ahead. We can ask, thank you very much for staff for being here as well. You can hang out in case there's more questions afterwards if you would, please. I'll ask the clerk, please, to go ahead and open up the item for public comment.
And for the record, motions 12A and 12B have been distributed and circulated for council's consideration.
Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and open it up. Mr. David Wheatley, are you still here? I know you spoke earlier. I think you already left. Okay. Carlisle Hall, I know you're still here. David Scharf, followed by Vahi. Ms. Ryan. John Walsh. Okay, we'll start with those cards. Please.
Good morning. I'm Carlisle Hall. I'd like to speak in particular against Mr. O'Farrell's new addition motion. I think it's a terrible idea that the council really ought to have second thoughts about and consider very closely what the proposal is. Up till now, the grandfathering has all been about a closed class of people who've relied on the city's conduct. We know it's in the neighborhood of 300 people. We know what the rationale is for grandfathering these people. They relied on the city's illegal conduct, so we're making it right for them. Now Mr. O'Farrell's motion completely changes the rules of the game. It's not really grandfathering anymore. It's keeping the prior illegal conduct standards in effect till the end of the month. It creates an open-ended class of any new person who wants to go into the building department.
Right, thank you.
Who hasn't relied at all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Good morning.
Good morning. David Scharf. I'm a resident of North Hollywood. Just want to offer some quick comments. I've already submitted my comments to the council file, and I've spoken to a couple people at Mr. Krikorian's office and Mr. Blumenfield's office. But kind of coming to this late, I've been passively following it as it seemed the council was on course to follow the initial city planner's recommendation and approve the state standards and kind of move forward. I'm in the group that Mr. O'Farrell described, which is we came to plan check in April with plans after being given the 120 memo last summer and designed a house, and now we find we can't get a permit. And I guess my main point is that I feel like the council is missing the second part of their duty, the first part being listening to their constituents, but the second part being providing guidance and expertise. And I feel like this issue has gotten distorted into being about size and mansionization and overbuilding and setbacks.
Thank you very much.
It's really about affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Vahe Masurian.
Good morning.
Mrs. Martinez, I understand your argument, but it's completely unfair. You have one resident in your area that you represent with an argument of stopping a permit for a second-story home where that resident actually followed the law in building that second-story home, which is completely unfair. And on top of that, you're stopping the process for hundreds of people trying to get their permitting plans checked, permitting process completed, which it just doesn't make sense. It's one resident having an issue with a homeowner that followed the law. And because of that, you're stopping this entire process. How does that make sense? How is that fair? And your whole argument was about fairness. It's completely unjust. Completely unjust. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Unjust, unfair. This is why they went, I just want black people to know and Hispanic people, why they went after the valley first. Usually they go after your neighborhood, but the property in the value in the valley is worth much, much more. What they want to do is destroy zoning. The mayor wants to destroy zoning. His husband, Glenn Dake, wants to destroy zoning. Everything is about destroying zoning so that they can build any damn thing they want to. And when they get finished with the valley, they will then go after black and Hispanic neighborhoods. One neighborhood they will never go after is west of LA, where my people, the Jews, live. HollywoodHighlands.org.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Walsh. Armin, followed by Saeed. And
Armin
Garin.
Meridian.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Mr. Krikorian. I got my permits in February. This is my 5th time coming. I'm really frustrated. I'm bleeding money. I spend more than $40,000. My backyard, I did the 1,200 footing. I got my permits. This is ridiculous. Ms. Martinez, I don't know what's the issue. Maybe you need a hug. A hug. High five. This is taking way too long. I contacted KTLA as well next Friday. I'm going to have oh, she didn't like that one. We need this thing to pass already. This is ridiculous. Any attorney would take this case. Any attorney would take this case. You got to be kidding me. It's since February, I spent so much money. This is ridiculous. This is the last time I'm coming here. I'm telling you right now. This is bullshit.
All right. Thank you very much. Ms. McAllister? Ms. McAllister, you're disrupting the meeting. Please sit down. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. I got my permit back in 2014. I started my construction September of 2015. My building was completed in March of 2016, this year. I've been waiting for the certificate of occupancy from the Department of Building and Safety. I don't know why I have been in this limbo for the past 6 months. I started this construction. I got a loan based on the permit that the city issued me. I have followed all the rules and regulations. I appeal to you, please pass the grandfathering with urgency. Enough is enough for me. I have suffered enough. Please pass it with urgency.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, John Gregorchuk. Good morning.
Council members, thanks again for having me once again. My name is John Gregorchuk, a homeowner stuck in limbo. You know, because I've been submitting a lot of emails to the council file and to the different council members, my contact information is in the signature of those emails, and I cannot tell you how many people have emailed, have called, begging me to speak on their behalf. I'm not an activist. I have a regular job, and I miss my work every single time I come here. The damages are piling up. Armin was threatening a lawsuit. You know, we've been trying to pull people away from suing the city in fear that it would delay this process even more. Guys, just please, we're regular homeowners. Please just pass the grandfathering with urgency. There's so many people. Sylvia is at home. She called me. She's working 2 jobs trying to take care of her family. She can't be here. My brother's been out of work since February because of these delays. He can't be here because he finally got another gig. So every single delay, we're told, no, hold off. Don't do anything. 2 more weeks, please, just pass it.
Thank you very much. Grove, followed by Isvander Grewal, followed by Stephen Apperton.
Hello, council members. I'm Grove Pashley, resident of Elysian Valley in the 13th District. Last year, I inquired with planning about building an accessory dwelling behind my small home. I was told to rely on the standards of the state law. I hired an architect who drew up plans that blend well within the neighborhood. In March, I inquired with the planning about submitting my drawings, only to be told legal issues prevented their acceptance. 3 weeks ago, I find out that council wasn't going to follow all the recommendations of the city attorney and planning commission that would clear things up so that we could rely on the state law as the city has done since 2010. I spent a great deal of time and money and effort, all based on city advice. Please amend 19B so that it provides people like me sufficient time to submit our plans that were developed by relying on rights granted by the state law. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Next speaker, please. Morning.
Good afternoon. My name is Iswinder Singh Grewal. Last year, me and my wife, we bought a house which has an extra back unit on the property, and which is a legal unit, and it's only 400 square feet. We're very poorly built. And I take a special pride in creating a nice living environment. I plan to demolish the poorly built back house and build an energy-efficient new 1,200 square foot unit, which costed me more than $2,300 to just get the plans ready to do it. And now the planning department says that I cannot build it or I cannot even submit my plans. Those opposing ADU seems to be imposing their values on us. We need this kind of like small family-owned development in the neighborhoods like Northeast LA, where we can extend our families and create some income if we have to. The city attorney provided the city council a simple way to keep relying on the state laws, and has been done since 2010. That should have been done. And your freeze trample the rights granted by state law and harms progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Appleton, I just want to echo the concerns of my neighbors in Northeast Los Angeles. This type of housing is needed. study of places like Portland and Vancouver and other places in the United States show the value of accessory dwelling units as community-serving development. And there is a state law in force since 2003. We are 13 years later. We are not in a position, actually, and I think you are in legal jeopardy to not have a means forward for people at this time. The expanding boundary of the grandfathering points out this will not be the route to take. The route to take is the recommendations of Plum, the Planning Commission, your planning deputies, and everyone else who looks at this issue objectively. There are indeed an idea of exclusivity of the home residence being imposed on areas where it's not appropriate. These are small lots. The restrictions of zoning and setbacks are already sufficient. Go forward, guys.
Thank you very much. Len, followed by Sarah, followed by Elliot. Good morning.
My name is Len Judakin. I wish to record and reflect that both I and my attorney have read the draft ordinance. Our reading and understanding of it is that our CRIM project is covered and is included by the grandfathering clause. Should there be any further amendments that affect my project and not the others, this I will consider to be very unfair and discriminatory. I wish to be treated fairly as we followed all rules applicable at the time. Thank you, and I wish you to pass the ordinance.
Thank you very much. Sergeant, if you want to assist with the microphone, please.
Good morning, Sergeant. Good morning, council members. My name is Sarah Mansouri. You have seen me here several times. All I'm asking is for you to pass and support the grandfathering end of this issue. And I'm asking Ms. Martinez, what are we supposed to do with the ones that we have? I have 95% completed construction. You want us to demolish that? So I'm asking, if possible, to support this with urgency, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name's Elliot Zarabi. My dad moved here from Iran because of religious persecution. He came here with $20 in his pocket, and he did everything for his family. He put me through school. I'm an attorney now. My sister's going through school. She's going to be a manager at a law firm as well. What has happened is my father's 95% complete with his project, and we've been stuck in limbo. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how he can get the money back that he's put in. Ms. Martinez, you are representing one person in your...
Please, we don't address the council members directly, but the council as a whole, please. Thank you very much. The council as a whole, please. Thank you very much.
So the issue is that people are leaving Los Angeles because of rents being so high. Having these additional units will help us save. Please pass the motion with urgency.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. You were Elliot?
No, I'm Elliot.
Yeah, okay, I got your card. Okay, thank you very much. Ken Barnes, followed by John Brenner, followed by, I think those are it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Garin Papazian. We're back here again and exhausted.
Wait, I'm sorry. Your name was what?
Garin Papazian.
I do not have a card for you.
I filled out a card and gave it to the officer.
Did I call your name?
You said Garan, right?
I said Ken and John. Just make sure I have a card for you. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yes, please. Apologize. Go ahead. We'll start your time over.
Can I get reset time?
Yeah.
Okay. We're back here again and exhausted. Since when having a permit did not mean anything? We're not asking at this point. We're tired of asking. We're demanding to get grandfathered in. We also cannot accept Amendment 19B. First, it's discriminating against two people. You've held up the entire city as hostage to chase after two people that have also followed the law. I would ask that constituent that has an appeal, what is the basis? For someone that has followed the law? We also cannot accept this as taxpayers. The city is opening itself to additional payouts through lawsuits for not honoring its permits and certificate of occupancies and discriminating against people. I have a permit. If the permit is not honored, I'll be forced to go to the next step in the process. No other choice. We're pregnant already. You've backed us up against the wall just for one person that is built on Noble Avenue, and someone has decided that's not allowed, even though that person has a permit. This is a group that relied on the city's SDU policy. This is the group, instead of illegally converting a garage, decided to build an SDU the right way.
Thank you very much. Ken? Morning.
Good morning. My name is Ken Barnes. I'm also a resident of Sun Valley in Los Angeles. I vote that we approve this and pass this and support the grandfathering as well. We have two projects that we've also submitted plans on, have approval, and at the last second we were prevented from continuing our project. We bought property. We have money at stake. All for trying to better the city of Los Angeles and increasing revenue and tax bases and building a better community, a better neighborhood, and a better life for everybody in the area. We've done this several times, and it's only win-win-win for everybody. And I just think it's bullshit that this is even up for contention. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Good morning, Council. John Brennan. I'm in favor of this proposal. This is unjust. This needs to be moved forward today. I have two projects that have been held up prior to the 25th of February, sitting, waiting this entire time. We have projects that we purchased to build second dwellings, to stop the illegal additions. I'm tired of building a brand new house and having illegal additions all around me that are illegally rented as well. This is a way to keep legal rentals, nice, newer homes, and give homeowners a chance to have increased revenue the legal way. Please pass this today, and let's quit messing around. This is unjust to keep holding this up. I'm in favor of the grandfather clause with urgency, and I'm in favor of this being extended to anybody who has been in plan check or have plans ready to submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes all the speaker cards that were submitted before we open discussions. And for anybody who submitted cards after the item opened up for discussion, we'll go ahead and file your card was received, and it'll be part of the official file. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the substitute ordinance, colleagues, that is 12B, which was submitted by the City Attorney's Office, has two changes, and they're both in Section 1 under legal nonconforming status. One gives a date certain, and that is consistent with the City Planning Commission and the Planning Department recommendations in their report, and it says the following: any second dwelling unit constructed or currently under construction pursuant to an issued building permit or proposed per plans sufficient for a complete plan check accepted by the Department of Building and Safety on or before September 30th of 2016 shall be considered lawful to the extent that such a second dwelling unit is constructed. Here's the second change. This is as per the City Attorney's Office recommendation. The sentence continues, under construction or proposed in accordance with, which is a change from reliance. And that is a change that was strongly recommended by the City Attorney's Office. Again, under construction or proposed in accordance with the June 23rd, 2003 interdepartmental correspondence issued by the City of Los Angeles Department of Planning, Department of Building and Safety. Those are the only two changes. And again, it takes care of the grandfathering issue that so many of us are concerned with, but it also includes that very small universe of people who are in limbo through no fault of their own that have plans ready to be submitted and accepted so they can move forward with their plans. And you heard from some of those speakers today. And I urge an aye vote on this substitute ordinance 12B.
Thank you very much. Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I think some members of the public have completely misunderstood what we're trying to do here. This is not about delaying anything. In fact, my office and myself have spent an enormous amount of time trying to get us here today and make a lot of you comfortable to be able to move forward with this ordinance. This is about two folks whose appeal process is in limbo, because if we move forward with this ordinance, what happens to their appeal process? That was the question. It wasn't satisfied to me or my staff, and that's why we're here. But to suggest that I need a hug by members of the public because I'm exercising my right to defend my constituents and my district is beyond disrespectful and uncalled for. So I'm not going to be supporting this moving forward, even though I had a lot to do with 19A. And I appreciate all the good work that the City Attorney's Office has done in building and safety to move us here today. But I think that my office has moved this forward because where we initially started was very, very, very controversial for a lot of your districts. So with that being said, I cannot support this because you're right, sir. I am standing up for one resident in my district in Van Nuys who is living next to a monstrosity of a building, and I challenge any one of you to live next to that, to raise children and your families next to that and see if you're comfortable. So to suggest that I need a hug is beyond insulting.
Please don't yell out from council chambers. We're going to ask you to be removed.
Mr. President.
We heard you out, so we're now.
Mr. President, moving forward, I can't support this, but I commend all of you for sticking with it. Mr. O'Farrell has done a tremendous job also trying to get us there. Mr. Rue, thank you very much for seconding our motion as well. And again, to the staff, I just can't see myself turning my back on this one resident who needs our help, who went through the process, who followed the rules, and who's now in limbo because I don't know what's going to happen necessarily to their appeal process. So that's it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, no, thank you very much. So, Mr. Koretz. Wait, before you speak, Mr. Koretz, we heard the members of the public, and we weren't heckling. We were listening, allowing the participation as well. So please show the same respect to the council deliberations as well. And if not, we'll unfortunately we'll have to ask you to be dismissed out of council chambers if you continue to disrupt this meeting. Mr. Koretz, thank you.
Well, I'm still trying to get the right interpretation of 12B, and the question is, does this provide an extra couple of weeks of time for people to bring forward new Granny Flat applications and then be grandfathered in?
I'll ask Mr. Michelson if you could answer that question.
And certainly in my district, there's the possibility, we see this all the time. One area gets constricted, another area, people suddenly realize they have an opportunity and they jump. So it wouldn't shock me if we had 50 or 100 applications if we provide a 2-week gap. So are we doing that? And if so, why are we doing it?
David Michelson, Office of the City Attorney. The amending motion that's on the floor would provide a date of September 30th for individuals to submit into Building and Safety an otherwise completed plan check. And if they do that timely, then they would be considered grandfathered, yes.
So what I don't understand is what's the reason for us to add an extra 2 weeks? I certainly understand why we're grandfathering in people that are in the process. Why are we creating a situation where we're encouraging new people to come into the process and be grandfathered in the next 2 weeks?
It's at the policy discretion of the council as to the date to be selected. So it's a policy decision.
Could the date not be today?
Again, the council has the ability to select a date. It could be April 4th, the date the judgment was entered. It could be September 30th. That's legally sound as well, we believe. Ultimately, it is a policy call for your council.
Well, just in protecting my constituents in my district, I certainly wouldn't be able to vote for this extra 2 weeks of grandfathering in new people into the process.
Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Michelson, you're not dismissed yet. I'm kidding.
Thank you.
further to Mr. Kretz's inquiry about the amendment, the ordinance, in your view, would be a stronger and clearer ordinance with the language change that's included in 12B regarding reliance versus in accordance with.
That's
right?
correct. I think having an actual date expressed in the ordinance provides ultimate clarity in that regard.
So having an explicit date, whatever that date may be, would provide greater clarity, would make would eliminate any potential argument of ambiguity about the effectiveness of the ordinance for an applicant.
I think that's a very good way to put it, yes, sir.
Okay. So I think to Mr. O'Farrell's point, there have been applicants who've come in post-April, come to the counter, been turned away, who might be able to come in the next couple of weeks, but I would expect that that would be a very small number of potential applicants because they would have to be ready to go right now, ready to rush to the counter within the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think, I mean, I don't have data on this, but just practically speaking, I've got to believe that that would be a relatively small change in the number of potentially grandfathered properties throughout the city.
My understanding from Building and Safety is there's about 17 that fell within that window.
Throughout the entire city?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I think, you know, the
17 were accepted before they started rejecting them. So it's 17 that came in and got accepted, and then there are the other people who didn't come in, but 17 I think is a fair number.
Okay. Okay, that seems to me, in the big scheme of things, a relatively small number. I think, you know, going back to the drawing board on this is not something that we want to do, but to make for a stronger and more defensible ordinance, ensuring that the grandfathering that the people who are here to speak in favor of is in fact defensible and is going to be part of an ordinance that is going to withstand scrutiny, is probably worth supporting a minor amendment, even if that means under our normal process that we won't have a final ordinance voted upon today. We'll be voting on the final ordinance in a second reading if it's not unanimous today, but still the ordinance will be moving forward in a way that is actually more sustainable, more reliable moving forward, and probably of more benefit to those folks who have come here asking for grandfathering. Fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I'll clarify that as well, the timeline. It does not extend for 2 weeks. The extension is technically 1 week, because if it's not unanimous, it goes forward another week. So technically, the net is 1 week, not 2. With that, Mr. Ruh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have a question for you guys, too. But before I ask my question, I just wanted to really acknowledge Councilmember Martinez, who really was instrumental in us getting this far. It was earlier working with her and to resolve this issue. And it was a pleasure to work with her and for us to even get to this point. And I'm just really disheartened that we couldn't help resolve her issue for her one resident. But but it is important that we stand up for every single one of our residents, and I really applaud the Councilwoman for getting us to this point. But the question is following up on Mr. Krikorian's question. So this might be a building and safety question, but if there was technically somebody today who wanted to apply, it's my understanding from building and safety is that there's a whole planning process. They have to prepare plans. So even if I wanted to build a larger granny flat today, you know, the odds of being able to prepare this in a week or 2 weeks, can you talk to us about that process?
Under 1226A3 of the Municipal Code, you need plans sufficient for plan check in order to submit, and you have to pay the fee. So Building and Safety could explain to you what that means, plan sufficient for plan check, but it's not just bringing in a piece of paper. So
is building and safety here? Yeah. So I just want to clarify, someone just can't, like you said, bring a piece of paper in and apply for it. And if Building and Safety could comment on roughly how long this usually a planning process takes, or for them to prepare an application.
Plan should be complete enough for plan check, meaning we have to have a layout of the unit, architectural and also a structural drawing to put it together. It can be done in a matter of few days. You know, it depends how hard the design team would work on that, but it's doable. These are small units, so it's doable to do within few days or so, I would say.
Okay.
But it could take as long as, I mean, it depends to the design team and their availability and the time. It's hard to say how long.
So the odds, as explained before, the odds of a huge influx of applications coming in is probably not the case.
No, I would say maybe within that period, at most like 30, 40, that would be at most. If any job that already started and they went through design process, but for the reason of these activities were pending and stopped, those would get a chance to complete.
Right, so pending, I mean, just to have the audience assured, anyone who's already pending, whereas in the limbo stage, they're all going to be grandfathered in. And obviously, if you have not started your plans, the odds of you, those people would probably be ready to apply, but someone just starting from scratch today, it would be a lot more difficult.
Would be difficult, is correct assumption.
So for me, I mean, I am more for the restrictive measure, but at the same time, I think this is a great compromise. I think this is a great place for us to be at. And as clarified by the chair, it's going to be basically after the second reading a 1-week extension. So while I support the more stringent measures, I will be voting in favor of 12B. And I think it's a fair compromise for what we're trying to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cedillo.
I just want to address the same matter. I want to applaud my colleague for her fight on behalf of her constituents, even if it's just one. You, Nuri, I applaud you for doing that. It's your duty, it's your job, and you do it with great zeal. But also, on this question of the concerns raised by Mr. Koretz, the other way to do it was simply to fashion the motion that would explicitly state who was going to be able to be grandfathered in, so that you wouldn't be dependent upon a date, and you could put the date today, you could put the date tomorrow, and therefore you could address Mr. Koretz's concerns by explicitly mentioning the 17 cases that you identified, identify them specifically, and then put a date that cures Mr. Koretz's concern about an open window that would allow others to enter.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Yes, I want to rise in support of Mr. O'Farrell's amendment. I seconded it. I've heard from constituents who have done a fair amount of architecture work or have hired contractors but didn't quite get in under our definition of the grandfather clause. I think this is a sensible extension because it removes that liability. It's one more step of liability where someone's going to come out and say, you know, I've already expended this amount of money. We're creating a window, but it's a sensible, small window to try to be straightforward with people as much as we can as a city. So I applaud you for putting it together, and I urge an aye vote.
All right, so we have no more speakers on the queue, so we can actually go ahead and vote for this thing now. So what I'm going to ask for first is a vote, and I'm going to take these together. 12B, 12A is a receive and file. So we'll be voting on 12A as a receive and file, but to accept 12B will be the first vote. Does that make sense? 12A was circulated, so we've got to take a vote on it. And so it's just going to be to receive and file it. 12B will then be the actual vote that we'll be voting yes or no on. Okay, everybody's got it. We'll go ahead and open the roll. Close the roll. and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
Okay, then it's go ahead and we're going to carry it over for.
No, a second vote is now required on the ordinance as amended.
The actual substitute ordinance, right. Okay, so that was to take it in. All right, so now we'll go ahead and actually vote on 12B on the actual language of the ordinance. So we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 2 noes.
Okay, now that item then carries forward for 1 week for a second reading. Okay.
Correct, and that would be to September 20th.
Yes, thank you very much. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and go to other general public comment cards. All right, if we can, we still have general public comment if we could. Latanya Hall. Shh. Followed by Pastor Eddie Jones. Shh. Latanya. Good morning. Good morning, Mrs. Hall.
Good morning to everyone here. I would like, on behalf of my son's memory, that the city pay attention to what has happened to his life, has been taken by a hit-and-run driver, and I would like to set up an award for his, a reward for his death. Huh? I live off of 89th and Broadway, Manchester and it's the cross streets.
When was the incident? How long ago?
The incident happened June 30th.
June 30th. We actually have a standing reward motion in the city of Los Angeles automatically, where we don't put motions in anymore for hit and run fatalities. Automatically, that's the case. We used to put in separate motions for them.
Right.
But we actually changed it so it's an automatic reward motion. And we'll go ahead and happy to fill you in on at the side of the ropes. But before we do that, let me just say this on behalf of all of us, our condolences to you and your family. It's absolutely the worst thing that could ever happen is to certainly lose a child, but one in that manner as well. It's just the most dramatic thing, and our hearts are with you and your family. And Mr. Krikorian, did you want to say something on this as well?
Because we do have a standing reward motion now in place, I wonder, since we took up some of their time, if they could just take a moment to describe when and where the tragic crime happened, so that if there are members out there in the public who are watching on television, they'll know about this incident.
It happened off of 89th and Broadway. He was crossing the street, and do I tell him?
That he had just got his associate's.
He had just got his associate's degree in auto mechanics, and I will be walking the stage for that event in May.
What time was the event? What time was the incident?
4:30 in the evening.
4:30 in the in the afternoon. 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yes.
Okay.
And my siblings, which is my children, they were on the scene when it happened, and my 13-year-old is here to talk about that as well. He was there when his brother got hit by a car.
What's your 13-year-old son's name?
Carl Hall.
Carl? Do you want to say a few words, Carl? Come on.
I would just like to get justice for whoever hit my brother.
Could you tell him about the
Sorry.
colors?
Carl, thank you for coming out today. Do you all remember anything about the automobile, which way it was headed? Was it a full car? Was it one driver? What do you all remember seeing?
Let your mom.
We only have what people in the neighborhood said, It was a green Honda. A black car had followed the car. Everyone in the neighborhood tried to help that day. You could say the whole neighborhood was tremendous. Everyone came together. It was a tragedy for me as his mom, and you could say for the whole neighborhood.
Well, I want to thank you for stepping forward, for being brave and being here today and asking for our help. Our help is automatic, but more importantly, in terms of the reward, one of the things we did recently is we no longer label these accidents. When you hit somebody on the side of the road and you flee, you are committing a cowardly crime. You are leaving somebody wounded on the side of a road and not rendering aid, calling for help, and we will track you down. And so we'll make sure that we work closely with the Los Angeles Police Department to get and share more details of that with all of us here. Because while it's automatic, we want to make sure we get that information out there to the public so they are aware that there's a reward motion leading to the apprehension and conviction so we can serve justice. It must be served. And he should rest in peace, knowing that we'll be doing that as well. But want to thank you, entire family, for stepping forward, particularly your son, who's here as well, his brother. So our hearts are with you and the family. Mark, your council member is over here and wants to talk to you personally as well, if you want to go ahead and step aside. Thank you very much. Thanks for having the bravery for being here today. Appreciate that.
Good morning to this very extinguished board, City Council President, and council members. We are very grateful that there will be a reward put up for Brian Hall, who had just received his Associates of Arts degree. The mother will be walking in his place at the college during the graduation. And my organization is called No More Violence and the LA Civil Rights Association, and we work with the community. And I want to commend Herb Wesson, who, when another young man named Damari Grant was hit and killed, helped us put a street light there on Farmdale where Dorsey is. And we're just asking for your continued help to help some sort of way give a memorial to the family, some kind of way, to help them remember never to forget what happened, where it happened. And also, in closing, we want to get the killer off the street, because if that person hit Brian, they'll hit someone else and they'll keep going. And we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Thank you, City Council President, and everyone here. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much for being here. All right, that should conclude the general public comment. And with that, do we have, what items are before us, Madam Clerk?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Okay, those will be posted and referred.
That clears the desk.
Okay, I'd like to make a special announcement, colleagues, a special announcement. We have birthday cake here in the back of Chambers because we have a very, very special birthday. Councilmember Bob Blumenfield's birthday. And with that, it's also, yesterday was Joe Buscaino's birthday. So I would imagine hopefully there's some lasagna in the back as well to go along with the birthday cake. And Saturday was Jose Huizar's birthday. So this is birthday week here in the city of Los Angeles as we recognize all of the special, we'll call them birthday boys this week. And happy birthday. With that, do we have any other announcements, colleagues? Any other announcements? Seeing none. Do we have adjourning motions? We do. We're going to ask all council members to please rise for adjourning motions. And all those in council chambers, if you can please join us and rise for adjourning motions. Take a moment to please rise for adjourning motions. We'll start off with Councilmember Cedillo.
I want to rise and ask that we close in memory of an incredibly decent human being, former supervisor, former council member, Ed Edelman. I had the privilege and honor of working with this decent man, both in 1991, while we were on a 11-day strike called Rolling Thunder under the guidance of then County Fed of Labor leader Bill Robertson. We had a series of meetings with Mr. Edelman, who was a arbitrator and mediator in his, not in his profession as a supervisor, but in his training. He was also a lawyer, and we had a series of meetings with him to help close our strike. It was an 11-day strike led by nurses, social workers, et cetera, throughout the county. And so I had an opportunity to work with him on that. But more memorable and more important to me was a period of time about 10 years ago where we addressed the issues and challenges that we confront today with respect to homelessness. Then as a senator, under the leadership of Ed Edelman and Ramona Ripston, we organized a delegation of 35 community leaders from this region, from the council, from the Board of Supervisors, from the LAPD, from the LA Sheriff's Department, from the City of Santa Monica, a delegation of about 35 community leaders who went to New York to study what were the policies and programs that New York was implementing, and many of them are now part of what we implement today here with our efforts to address homelessness. Ed Edelman was just a really decent human being, compassionate, cared about the poor, he was effective, he was smart, he was kind, and he embodied in his life, in his private life, everything that we knew about him in his public life. He will be greatly missed, and I'm just blessed that I got to know him personally and work with him in a very intimate manner to address the social ills of our day. He's a great human being.
Thank you. Mr. Weiss.
Because I had the honor and the pleasure to work with him when he was a County Board of Supervisor. I was Chief of Staff to Supervisor Yvonne Burke, and he was a very kind, gentle, and just a good human being. And just as an aside, Dave Michelson was a staff member of his, and Rich Llewellyn was a staff member of his. I think that's where they got their start. And I can remember that when the board shifted from one party to another, and it shifted to Edelman's party, that he was a very happy fellow around budget time because he had waited so many years to get things done. And so I can just remember seeing the joy in his face. But he was a good man and a good public servant.
Oh, thank you. In fact, I think right after the shift is when he created the Department of Children and Family Services. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to recognize Ed Edelman. Probably the closest that I worked with him was when the city of West Hollywood was created, and we essentially had to secede from the county as an unincorporated area and become a city. And he dealt with that with quite a bit of helpfulness and generosity. Could have made it hard for us, actually did whatever he could to make it easy, and he was very generous and helpful in that process. And he accomplished so many things it would take a very long list to list them, but he certainly was very supportive of the LGBT community. He was one of the first elected officials to actively identify AIDS and try to make government be helpful. A lot of work with mental health and children's services, and I believe he created the Colts Commission, which started to rein in law enforcement and the Sheriff's Department and their practices, and that's been a model all over the country. But I think he's really best known for just being one of the most decent people ever to hold elective office. And for those of you who know Jeff Seymour, he was also on his staff as well. So a very decent fellow, and he will be very sorely missed.
Mr. Bonin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to add a word or two about Ed Edelman as well.
I'm lucky enough to represent part of the area that he represented, and his legacy is one that's still felt and still remembered. I had the opportunity to work a little bit with him long after he retired from the Board of Supervisors. He was a special advisor to the city of Santa Monica on homelessness back when Bill Rosendahl was in office. Bobby Shriver had him appointed, and he did a lot of work. And Santa Monica is far ahead of the city of Los Angeles in dealing with homelessness and providing solutions. And we're finally catching up to that. And part of the reason Santa Monica did such a good job was because of Ed Edelman. And I dealt with him as a staff member, and I got to say, the guy was just a prince. He was kind, he was gentle, he had no ego whatsoever. He was so easy and pleasant to deal with, and great to learn from. His passion and his love for service was really abundant. There actually is a documentary that came out about a year ago about Ed, which I recommend. It's called The Passions and Politics of Ed Edelman. And there's a website where you can see it, edelmandocumentary.com. And I think you can also find it online somewhere. I also had another adjourning motion, if now would be appropriate.
Do we have others that wanted to speak on this one? Okay. Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yesterday was a really tough and sad day for Los Angeles. Not only did we lose Ed Edelman, but we lost a constituent of mine, a giant in Los Angeles, particularly in progressive circles, Stanley Scheinbaum, former head of the police commission here in Los Angeles, died at his home in Brentwood at age 96. Stanley was an amazing guy. I mean, he was a giant of heart, of mind, and of passion and dedication to the causes he believed in. He was huge as a warrior for social justice and equality and for civil rights. He grew up in Depression-era New York City and didn't wind up graduating from high school until he was 25. And he went from that to being a guy who was an advisor to kings and queens and presidents and leaders of this city and of industry. His home was a place that was a constant salon and gathering place and hub of organizing, really for all progressive causes in Los Angeles. It was a place at which he raised money for generations of progressive candidates, presidential candidates. He just had Bernie Sanders there recently, Barack Obama, back to George McGovern and John Anderson. He was a big fan of Dennis Kucinich, who I had the opportunity to meet there. He became an economic and a foreign policy expert to all of these people. But what strikes me is not just that he had all these people of power there who consulted with him, but his home that he and Betty created was a place of learning and of inspiration for generations of grassroots activists and community organizers in Los Angeles. If you look through the Facebook news stream yesterday, the folks who were instrumental in the starting of the Liberty Hill Foundation or in Code Pink or in progressive organizations throughout Los Angeles were all talking about the way Stanley and Betty and their influence and the experiences they had at their homes touched their lives and fueled their activism. He was a huge leader in fighting the Vietnam War, in raising money for Daniel Ellsberg's defense and releasing the Pentagon Papers. He fought segregation in LA's schools. He was a huge leader in reforming the LAPD from a brutal, oppressive occupying force into a different kind of police force. He fought for divestment from South Africa. He was instrumental in helping put together the 1993 White House summit between Israel and Palestine. He took credit, rightly, for getting Yasser Arafat to denounce terrorism and to stand up and recognize the state of Israel. Stanley was very controversial. I mean, when he was doing the stuff with Arafat, he was vilified by some in his own community. They left a dead pig on his lawn. Daryl Gates called him a pain in the ass. I think Stanley actually liked that and probably owned that. But he always stood up for what he believed in. Peter Dreyer, who's a noted professor at Occidental College and was a friend and a fan of his, described Stanley yesterday as as a traitor to his class. And Stanley probably would have appreciated that, because Stanley really, despite living in Brentwood and despite being part of sort of the Malibu mafia that did a lot of work for progressive issues, he really cared passionately about the poor and people who needed help. And he did so most of the time from behind the scenes. An amazing man. I'm so glad to have had the opportunity to get to know him. He touched so many lives, and he's a giant whose presence in Los Angeles is going to be felt for a very long time. He just published a memoir in 2012, which I haven't read yet, and I'm going to. Stanley K. Scheinbaum, A 20th Century Knight's Quest for Peace, Civil Liberties, and Economic Justice. May he rest in peace.
Yes, Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. My family and I and countless other people lost a wonderful person and a good friend on Saturday night with the passing of Gail Margolis following a difficult illness. She was Vice President of Government, Business, and Community Relations at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. She joined CHLA in 2004 and played a significant role in advocating for child health, graduate medical education, and safety net hospitals with state and national legislators. As a direct result of her work, CHLA was instrumental in early efforts to launch the California Hospital Provider Fee and repeatedly secured support for graduate medical education funding. She was a well-known figure in healthcare, government, and nonprofit circles, working for Daniel Friedman's hospitals, later being appointed the Deputy Director of the California Department of Health Services, with responsibility for overseeing the state's Medi-Cal program, and served as CEO of the Scleroderma Research Foundation prior to coming to CHLA. She received commendations for service at the state, regional, and city government levels for her contributions. She served as a member of many health policy and advocacy organizations, most notably as a member of the California State March of Dimes Board and chair of its Public Advocacy Committee. I've followed her career with great admiration, but I also had a personal connection. In 2005, some of you know my daughter Rachel developed a sudden case of Guillain-Barré syndrome, and she was completely paralyzed at Children's Hospital for over 3 months. Gail Margolis was extremely helpful, and a treatment was eventually found that allowed for her complete recovery. Gail will be remembered by me, my family, and many at CHLA and around the world for her compassionate leadership and great personal decency. She certainly made a difference for the better in the lives, health, and well-being of untold numbers of persons, and her tremendously positive legacy will continue on. May she rest in peace.
Looking to my left, seeing no other adjourning motions, and to our right, I believe that concludes this council meeting. We are adjourned. Be safe.